Bengals fans, happy Saturday. I am your host, Stone Shields. Thanks so much for tuning into Bengals Breakdown by Chat Sports. Fresh off of our at-home video yesterday that broke down all the guys that the Bengals waived on Friday afternoon. So we're going to kind of circle back to that a little bit. I think the two most notable names on that list were Jackson Carman and Allan George. So we'll spend a little bit of time on those two guys in particular. Also, we're not going to go through the entirety of the Bengals roster, but there's a couple position groups that we'll look at and make our final projections for guys that are going to make this 53-man roster for Cincinnati with roster cutdown day coming up here in a few days. So that'll be on the show today as well. And also, we'll just touch on this. Of course, if Ja'Marr Chase does end up missing regular season games, there will be financial repercussions because of that. So we'll kind of hop into the math there a little bit, not get too deep into the weeds, but kind of explain to you guys what kind of fines will be coming his way if he does ultimately decide not to get out there week one for the Bengals and suit up with his teammates. But before we dive into today's show, make sure you guys give me a follow over on Twitter. It is August 24th today, and I've got to get to 400 followers by the end of the month. So we got about a week here to get it done. We really are close. We get about 10 on this video, we'll be right on our way to hitting that number. Again, all of our Bengals content will be posted to my Twitter, and once the season really starts getting going, there'll be a bunch of highlights up there as well. So you don't want to miss out on that. Help me out. Give me a follow at StoneShields_ on Twitter. So these are the guys that the Bengals let go yesterday, Friday afternoon, kind of getting ahead of the action a little bit. I don't think a ton of teams necessarily have made a bunch of cuts yet, but the Bengals did get rid of several guys, kind of just going down the roster here, or going down this list, taking a look at guys. Hakeem Butler, of course, is the reigning Offensive Player of the Year in the UFL, so he's a guy that I think if he's able to clear waivers, the Bengals would like to bring back on the practice squad. Noah Cain was the running back that they went with earlier. A little bit interesting that they went with him before Elijah Collins, but Cain, a running back that's not going to be sticking around for Cincinnati. Michael Dowell out of Miami. I thought he played really well for Cincinnati, but ultimately he wasn't going to be able to make the roster. And Kwamie Lassiter II, of course, who has spent some time with the Bengals practice squad recently and over the past couple of seasons. He's a really nice player. Wasn't going to be able to make the team. He's a guy I really hope that is able to clear waivers, and I would really love to see him play on the Bengals practice squad again in 2024. Of course, he was able to get one game of action last year and get a reception. That was a really cool moment. But Kwamie Lassiter, hopefully he can be on the practice squad. But guy I want to focus on real quickly is Jackson Carman. We've kind of, it feels like beating a dead horse at this point, but I think we have to circle back to the fact that he was a second-round pick for the Bengals. And that kind of was the backup. Remember the whole debate about should they take Ja'Marr Chase, should they take Penei Sewell? They went with Chase, and kind of the backup plan was, we're going to get Carman here in the second round. And obviously that didn't pan out for Cincinnati. It's one of the bigger whiffs in recent memory for this franchise, Jackson Carman. And, they're cutting ties. They're not messing around anymore. They didn't even elongate this longer than they had to. I think based off that performance with Tampa, that was kind of his last chance. And he just kind of fell on his face, unfortunately for him, with all those penalties. And just got beat a lot, too. So that was kind of what ultimately ended up resulting in him being cut. They do it early. It was only a matter of time. Not rooting against him by any means. Hopefully he can figure something out. Maybe, a new location can potentially help his career. But it wasn't meant to be in Cincinnati, unfortunately, for Carman. So he is out. Allan George is another guy that kind of made this list that is a bit noteworthy. I think Allan George has been brilliant through training camp. In the first two preseason games, he did not allow a single reception. So I thought he was a guy that could potentially, make the roster for the Bengals. He made the roster as an undrafted free agent when he originally got with the club. And I think this is a situation where they're kind of letting him go early with hopes that he can, help himself out and be on an NFL team. Because I believe Allan George is an NFL player. I really do. And I think this is the Bengals kind of looking out for him, cutting him early and hoping that someone else can pick him up. I'd be surprised if he's able to stick around after, I would be surprised if he cleared waivers and was able to be a part of the Bengals practice squad. I think some other team will pick up Allan George. Really, that cornerback room was just a little bit too full, and obviously this is going to have to get cut down even more By the way, I'm getting close to officially changing this graphic and getting DJ Turner out of that spot and putting Dax Hill up there because I do believe that's what we're going to see week 1. I made that prediction a few days ago, and I think that's what's going to come to fruition. But Jalen Davis is another guy I'm monitoring in this spot because he seems like he's going to be someone that's on the outside looking in for Cincinnati. But I want to get to the pinned comment of today's show. Will Allan George clear waivers? That's my question to you guys here on Bengals Breakdown, Saturday edition of Bengals Breakdown. This is an end for me. I would be surprised if he did. The Bengals would love to have a player of George's caliber on their practice squad, but I don't really see that as a realistic situation. But let us know what you think at the pinned comment of today's show. Running back room. Let's talk a little RBs here. This is interesting because Travion Williams got a ton of snaps for Cincinnati in their final preseason game, which was kind of because I thought he was a lock to make the team, and then they were out. He was out there for a long time at 11 carries, 66 yards, played well. And then Zach Taylor was asked about it, and he said he earned the opportunity to be out there. So I was like, well, I mean, is this a guy that's kind of on the edge of making the roster? I don't know. I think he's clearly a lock to me. But it'll be interesting to see if he does officially make the roster. But when I look outside of Travion Williams, as each day goes on, especially with the cut of Noah Cain, it just becomes more apparent that the Bengals are going to look outside the building for that 4th running back spot if they ultimately end up taking 4. Again, I think they were going to take 4 if Chris Evans was healthy. Obviously, unfortunately for him, he is not. And the name we keep coming back to on this show, Bengals Breakdown, is Samaje Perine. It just makes too much sense for Cincinnati. That running back room in Denver is really crowded. He appears to be on the outside looking in. And I think ultimately they will try to bring him in. I don't think they need to trade for him, right? Because then they would have to eat some of that contract. I think ultimately he will get waived by Denver. And if Cincinnati wants to pounce, they will be able to do so at the waiver wire. Taking a look here at the tight end room projections here for Cincinnati. Look, I think I just got to eat the bullet here when it comes to Tanner McLachlan. It doesn't seem like he's going to make the team. I know I've been bullish on McLachlan ever since the Bengals drafted him in the 6th round, but they really were hiding him. The last preseason game really wasn't out there at all for the Bengals. Also, Cam Grandy was out there a good amount. I think the Bengals would love to have Grandy and McLachlan on their practice squad, but we'll see if McLachlan is able to clear waivers. Now, I got to be honest. Eric All Jr. has performed a lot better than I thought he was going to. He's looked really good out there for Cincinnati, and I think he definitely has the upper hand over McLachlan. You see that just on the reps, the distribution of reps, and he's really done a nice job. So that's been a pleasant surprise for me. But it does appear McLachlan is going to be on the outside looking in of this Bengals tight end room. More on some projections here in a bit, but first I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting picks to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time Picks is the easiest way to find and buy tickets to live events. A couple of weeks ago, I went to a Jason Aldean concert, got my tickets with Game Time. Incredibly straightforward process, and I got my tickets immediately with zero stress. You can also get ready for football season and get tickets to watch the Bengals at Paycor Stadium. My 2 favorite features on Game Time. First up, the all-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout like a lot of those other ticketing apps. Secondly, the seat views. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, I'm going to say it. I am ready to call A.J. McCarron again if I am the Cincinnati Bengals. Look, Logan Woodside, he had opportunity there. You saw some great things week 1 against Tampa. Last 2 games, not so much. I'm ready to kind of move off of him as you take a look at this kind of QB depth chart here for Cincinnati. With Browning's injury, he's still in that quarterback 2 spot. Even if Logan Woodside balled out, he wasn't going to challenge Jake Browning for that backup quarterback spot for Cincinnati. Browning's got that under wraps. We'll see if he's healthy for week 1, but that is certainly his job to lose for Cincinnati. He's not going to lose it, by the way. He is the backup quarterback for the Bengals. But I'm ready to call A.J. McCarron again. I thought he did, he's just a great guy to have in the locker room. I know people in Cincinnati love A.J. McCarron. I am absolutely no different. We've got a lot of emotional ties to A.J. McCarron and his time with the Cincinnati Bengals. I think it's time to bring him back. Who knows if A.J. McCarron will want to come back and be that third quarterback again for the Bengals, but I think they should certainly call him and see where he's at with that, kind of where his mind is at in regards to that, because I think he is a significant step up from Logan Woodside as that third quarterback for Cincinnati. So should the Bengals call A.J. McCarron? Let me know. Be honest with me in the comment section. This is a 1 for me, but type 1 for yes or 0 for no. Let us know what you think in the comments of today's show. All right, so after Bengals cut some couple of guys on the offensive line, this room's starting to make a little bit more sense here as we go forward. And really the most interesting thing for me, I think we've got Matt Lee below Trey Hill here, but we will get that adjusted. Matt Lee's going to be the backup center for Ted Karras. He's played really well these past 2 preseason games, and I think he's certainly vaulted his way onto the roster as a 7th-round pick for Cincinnati. What I'm going to be monitoring is who's going to win that last interior spot between Trey Hill and Nate Gilliam. That's kind of what I'm focusing on. Feels like the Bengals are going to take 10 guys in that room as opposed to 9, but we will see about that going forward. So I think that they certainly will take 10 guys, but again, that's kind of what I'm monitoring there. Will Trey Hill make the 53-man? That's kind of the last thing here for Cincinnati as far as their offensive line depth chart goes. And again, we'll find out more on that in the coming days here when the roster officially cuts down on the 27th. Lastly, before we get out of here, I want to talk about some potential repercussions for Ja'Marr Chase if he ultimately doesn't go out there and suit up with the Bengals week 1. Here's a quote from Joel Corey, who is a former NFL agent. And this is kind of what he had to say as far as the Ja'Marr Chase situation, kind of just breaking things down. He said, Chase would run the risk of being cited for a conduct detrimental to the team infraction by continuing the hold-in after receiving the written warning. The maximum penalty for contact detrimental is a fine of 1 week's salary and a suspension without pay for 4 weeks. Chase would be out 5 weeks worth of his $1 million salary, which is $293,000, with the most severe discipline for conduct detrimental. A portion of Chase's signing bonus and the $3.8 million roster bonus would be at risk, with the Bengals electing to enforce those penalties under the CBA. Chase's potential loss in 2024 roster bonus would be about $423,000. This type of conduct detrimental violation would be costly. Chase would be out about $1.8 million with the Bengals asserting all of their rights. That's kind of, diving into the weeds here with kind of the financials. I think the biggest thing to pull away from this is that he would be losing about $2 million. Is he willing to do that to make his point and try to get his extension? I don't know. It'd be pretty gutsy to just let $200 million go by the wayside, especially if there's no guarantee they get a deal done beyond that. So that's kind of what Ja'Marr is kind of juggling at this point. But again, I would be shocked if we don't see Ja'Marr Chase week 1. He doesn't seem like a guy that's going to, carry this into the season. People say, oh, he's being selfish right now, but, okay, now's a fine time to be selfish. Week 1, that's not a good time to be selfish if you're Ja'Marr Chase and the Cincinnati Bengals. You got to get, it figured out, and you got to be out on the field with your teammates, even if you don't reach that extension. But again, we'll continue to monitor this situation very closely. We'll have all the updates regarding it. So make sure you hit that subscribe button for all the latest Ja'Marr Chase news, contract, extension, rumors, you name it. We got it here at Bengals Breakdown. I would expect something in the coming days to come up about Ja'Marr Chase, about either him showing up and saying, screw it, it's time to go, or the Bengals giving him an extension, or him saying he's 100% not going to go. So that'll be coming in the in the near future. So make sure you're subscribed for that. That's youtube.com/BengalsTV.